Hello. I sound kind of hoarse. It's because I have a cold. Yeah. Well, it was a bad storm here last night. Really bad storm. All day yesterday, actually, in fact. There's actually a lot of things going on. I wanted to get into the Stargate program to start out with. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I've been talking for years about the Utah data center, and of course you could look at it on Google Street View, and it's a huge information collecting entity. I know this was all kick-started off on the Real ID back in 2005, but current Cheeto Jesus is actually, as I humorously call him, pushing this full throttle. And the Stargate data center, which you can find videos and photos of same, is being built in Abilene, Texas. Basically 1 million square feet, which is unbelievable. 200 megawatts of power, nominal, planning on housing over 64,000 NVIDIA GB200 processing units, and I don't know what type of storage. Processing is one thing. Storage of information is another. It's wonderful to process information. Storing it is another. Certainly not going to be on tape backups, obviously. What replaces honor and nobility back when people actually use... When's the last time you heard the word honor or nobility? Or the word wisdom? Well, you've replaced honor and nobility. And this is completely a model of tyrannical Marxism, by the way. What replaces it, honor and nobility, is a bunch of cameras and terabytes of data. I now have 5 cameras just on the outside of this house. I got one in my car to record full time. And I got one of these that slips right inside the V of your shirt. It's basically like a police camera. I am no fan of stuff like this. It's because nobody has any honor or nobility anymore. That's the reason why we have this. Trust nobody. It's okay, what do you replace it with? But have information in every detail on everyone. Let's repeat that again. You don't have to trust anybody anymore. Nobody has to have honor or nobility because nobody does anymore, essentially so. And you just replace that with a camera everywhere. And this is the truth. This is a fact, too, by the way, and this is tying into something that Apple is doing. I know you think I'm a big Apple fanboy because I got all these Apple devices, and I love the products, but I never liked the company. Never did I like the company. The Real ID will monitor your social behavior, just like the government over there in the Far East. Yeah, you know which one I'm referring to. Contain your facial rec data, allow for high-resolution street cameras to track you and comply with mandates, like V mandates, for example. And if you want your Real ID to be valid, you also have to determine whether you can buy or sell and control what you buy or sell. This kind of sounds familiar. I don't think I have to say it, what that is, but there's a new movie, and it's an hour and 43 minutes long. And I noticed, and a lot of people are even saying in the comments, but it's also too on the regular internet, that their comments are being nixed. And this is the name of it. And if you think it's ironic that I have to hold up a chalkboard, which I don't have to, but I have to hold up a chalkboard to show you the name of the movie to find online. It's really very, very, very heartbreaking. The end of the movie, this is the name of the movie, by the way. I never tell anybody to go do something. I never do that. I said everybody should see Hidden Faith of the Founding Fathers. That's free on the tube as well. It's nothing but quotes and evidences and quotes and evidences and quotes and facts and facts and quotes. Here's the name of the movie, hour and 43 minutes long. At the end of this movie, it says, if you want to know what's going on, you should follow the money. But if you want to know the truth, you need to look at who is being silenced. This is about what occurred a few years ago and still kind of continues to occur, except to a much lesser degree. A lot of people have PTS, not me, I knew what it was right from the get-go. And one of the small pluses of social media, small pluses, and it's a really big one, but you know, there's a lot of negative and a lot of misery that you have to deal with being on social media, is that I, not my opinion, okay, but fact told by other people, that I personally saved the lives of like a few hundred people during this time. That movie is extremely heartbreaking. You should actually share it with everybody. It might be extremely hard for you to watch. I can't get into the comments of what it's about because it's too heartbreaking. Not for me, but it's too heartbreaking to talk about. Once again, sorry, I caught a cold. I don't know where I got it from. This is new. I'm big into installing solar power systems, and I think these are part of the integrated charge controller / inverter systems. You know, they're big boxes about yay big. I've had more than a few of them. I've always got rid of them. I like charge controller and inverters to be independent from one another. But engineers have discovered kill switches embedded in Chinese manufactured power inverters, like the big industrial ones used for, you know, power backups for buildings and small businesses. These are the big 10,000 watt and higher units. It doesn't list it as any specific brand, so therefore I'm assuming it's all of them. This is kind of all over the place of American solar farms. So what they have in them are cellular receivers, which you can get a call remotely from on the other side of the earth, and you just hit in a DTMF code and the inverter will turn off, and you can't turn it back on again unless you're very skilled and know to identify the specific components. Go in there, desolder it, shunt around it, and most people don't know how to do that, so it's kind of brilliant. And of course it's definitely the definition of the word insidious, undeniably so. Is it insidious? That's insidious. Just shut off, you know, first we're going to black you out, your power, and then we're going to send a cellular code that will turn off the power inverter. So you can have a whole big bank of batteries, and your solar panels, you can't stick them in there. Solar panels are extremely transparent, both literally and figuratively. You could put them in the charge controller, but it makes more sense to stick them in the... So they found those in there. There's something that's been bothering me for a long time, and it's creeping in more and more and more. And everybody's talking about it. I call it... it's not merely digital. There's also, too, hardware. I call it electronic Marxism. This idea that you can never own anything anymore. This is a reason why I'm a huge user of Adobe Acrobat Professional. Now it's called Acrobat DC. And I refuse to use it anymore, but I need it. But I've found alternatives. I refuse to buy into this. You can never own it. You know, pony up the money, keep ponying it up. This digital rental nonsense. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. The great American company John Deere, they have features that are only unlocked digitally, like farming equipment. Or if you don't pay monthly, then they'll just shut it off. So the farmer could be out there and, you know, he already bought it, but since he didn't make the last month's payment, they're just going to shut that off. You should go look that up on John Deere. I had no idea how insidious, you know, the great American company. Of course, all companies are evil. I've been saying this since day one. I have no respect for big companies. The bigger they are, the more wicked they are. That they'll just shut your equipment off. You know, I got a $100,000 tractor, but John Deere could shut it off remotely via a cell phone tower. Nobody should buy products like that. I actually put my money where my mouth is. What very little money that I have, I would refuse to ever. So I will not give Adobe Systems any more money, even though I actually desperately need a couple of their software products. I just refuse to do it. There's problems like this they're thinking about retracting it because there's such an outcry. It's like on new Chevys, I think, where they're playing commercial. It used to be like driving down the road and a commercial will play. And there's no way to turn it off. They just thought that was a good idea, and they could get, up to $1 million of revenue stream by, showing you commercials on your center console there. I can't remember if it was Chevy or Ford that did that. BMW has this. You could buy a $100,000, I forget which model it is, car, but to get the ability to boost the fuel injectors for that extra oomph of power, you got to call up and make a monthly subscription to BMW. Streaming, the streaming services that everybody just pays a bottomless monthly fee for. I mean, there's still DVDs out there, but not really of any of the new stuff. I mean, you can't buy a movie anymore. I bought a movie, I own it. I may never watch it again, but at least I own it. Thank goodness there are at least ways around what I've called digital Marxism. I refuse to buy things that you can't own, and someone say, what about your land? And this is true, it's property taxes. I mean, which is, of course, is like paramount evil that there possibly could be, that we need to get rid of property taxes. Most of which goes towards the fundamentally insidious school systems, where you send your kids and they get, their brains, bent in certain ways to believe things that are, of course, not true. By the way, Apple is implementing an AI in their future products. I forget which version it is, to track 100% of everything you do or seek out and keep records of it. And from some of the digital experts, they say in the middle of the night, like 3 or 5 in the morning, there will be these data dumps from your phone to a central server nexus of gigabytes of data while you sleep. In the middle of the night, it's just uploading a pile of data on you. Everything you search, say, think, feel, believe, you like, you don't like. People, I've known this my entire life, because I have literally, you think I'm joking, I'm not, 14 terabytes, over 14 terabytes of books, most of which are PDF. Not gigabytes, terabytes. All about information. Of course, information only goes so far. Intellect or episteme, empirical knowledge, is one thing, wisdom is another. But I'm all about having the world at my fingertips as far as the things I want to know a lot about. So I've always known this, but most people really are extremely clueless about how valuable and important information is. You can make predictions, you can just build, you have AI take someone's data, and it will build in a matter of seconds an algorithm based upon what this person is, what they're going to do next, what they want to buy next. That data is extremely valuable, and it's extremely powerful not only to corporations, but the GOVT. However, the distinction now between big gov and big corp is essentially non-existent, as you very well know. This is all happening right now. I don't know what anybody thinks about me. They just think I'm like some sort of nerdy bookworm. But I'm extremely tough as nails in person. I mean, you would actually be shocked at how vociferous, there's a great word people don't use anymore, vociferous. And, kind of like the blue face paint from the movie Braveheart, letting out the cry, holding out the... kind of like that. I really am like that in person. And I'm fair, though, and rational, but I'm so disturbed, and Europe is really bad about this, but America is getting very bad about this as well. We just have a nation of podlings. Podlings is a reference to a Jim Henson thing from, those little gelflings that would seek out the Dark Crystal. Remember the Dark Crystal movie? The podlings were the dullards. These they just have a sappy look on their face, and they just go around doing whatever their masters tell them to do. We just have a world full of podlings, and everybody, unfortunately, is being pacified for far less resistance. Your forefathers and my forefathers never would have put up with this. Never, not even 1/100th of what everybody is, complacent about now. I'm not going to make any statements on that, but that's an undeniable fact. I thought this was just me because this is a relatively peaceful town. Lexington is a college town. There's a whole lot of passive-aggressive people in Lexington. But I don't know if you've noticed this as well. Please tell me, and I read every comment. Road rage is just way, way up. People are zoned out, and they're just, they're broke, of course, and they're driving like nuts. And I recently, after noticing this and commenting a bunch of people, I found a huge thread where people were reporting on this. It's like, have you noticed in your town that, the unhinged have just exponentially increased? And everyone's like, yeah, I thought it was just me. It's happening everywhere, apparently. I actually check out and look for, and I know what a bot is, and I can very quickly spot a bot. You can click on the person, and you can see if they have any genuine profile of likewise pictures of themselves, and see if something's a bot. And there's a lot of them on Insta. But in this case, these are not bots. I didn't even find a single bot. There's a huge wave of people saying that they're avoiding visiting the United States. Just avoiding. I mean, I've been laughing at some of the comments. Oh, we were planning a vacation from Canada, and now what America's become, we're not going to visit there. And all these Europeans saying this. And I mean, it's just an enormous amount of people saying this. And honestly, I found it extremely humorous. Your average American could not care less. I know if you're an American that's in the tourist business and you're looking for Canadian or European dollars, that's incredibly important. But my feeling is if I ever take a vacation, since I can't afford one, I got to sell my church first. I have a church, of course, that I need to sell off. That hey, it's just more hotel space for us. Less crowded beaches. I don't think any real American cares about that. If you're like so offended and you have TDS, I think you know what TDS is, right? You have to know what TDS is. If you have TDS and you just figure you're not going to take a vacation in the United States, whether it be Florida or, does anybody here care other than somebody in the tourist business? And the answer, no, we don't care. Couldn't care less. I can't believe the absolute avalanche of videos out there now, all over the place, on the tube and Insta. Just say, I'm not going to go to the United States. That place is a tyranny. No, I cancel. I'm not going to give $1 to. So? It's a guy I used to know. He had a famous way of saying so. He's going to tell him something. You're like, so? I'll never forget him. That's the only thing I remember him for. So? I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but everybody apparently is avoiding it. I don't know if you know this. This is from the 1984 book, not Orson Welles, but what's his face? The book 1984. Eliminating out words, you eliminate out the concepts for same. It's called Newspeak in the book 1984. There's 11,000 plus English nouns that have dropped over 85% of usage. AI and the web are eliminating out functional vocabulary. Words associated with freedom and integrity and honor. In other words, any word associated with freedom, integrity, honor, and other things that are just like that in the same ilk. They've they're purposely trying to scrub them from usage on the internet. In the book 1984, they're talking about eliminating out words, and you eliminate out the concepts. Words such as boundaries and freedoms and integrity. I wonder what you think about that. If I were nefarious, this is exactly what I would be doing. I would be eliminating out any and all synonyms and words having to do with integrity, honor, vocabulary of freedoms or concepts of freedom. By the way, the forces of Russia are actively preparing for a large-scale river crossing across the river Dnieper. That's how you say it in Russian, by the way. Dnieper. Here in English we say Dnieper. Reliable sources confirm the deployment of pontoon bridges, many hundreds of pontoon bridges, equipment coordination exercises within the Dnieper group of the forces for Russia, hinting at the major offensive maneuver in the works. And by the way, the peace negotiations in Turkey between Ukraine and Russia, they began, and in a few minutes, they ended. The Russians walked out. They basically wanted Ukraine to concede all these countless territories and since, of course, that was extremely laughable. I don't care what side you're on, if you're on any side at all. That's just incredibly laughable. So these peace negotiations started, and a few minutes later they ended. I knew that would happen. This is coming out of Australia, and I've seen video of this. NetBank is the Commonwealth Bank, offers online banking services, allows customers to transfer funds, manage accounts, access assets and liabilities, mobile apps, of course. This largest retail bank in the country of Australia, I should say Australia, is in such dire financial conditions that they can't provide customers with their own money, and they will have customers arrested for demanding to take out some of their own money. And there's a few videos of this, and it's quite startling. The bank called the police on the one guy and had the customer removed. Police sent over 6 officers. I've seen that video. It's all over the place. You know, it's hard to say what to say about that, but if that happened here in the United States, where a customer was dragged out tooth and nail trying to get some money out of his own bank, when the bank called the po-po on him, I'll let your mind wonder about what do you think would happen here, you know, if the United States tried to pull something off like that. Some corporate entity, some bank. By the way, the ones to avoid the absolute worst, not my opinion, in fact, Bank of America. Number 2, Wells Fargo. And number 3 is Chase. Keep that in mind. If you have either one of those 3, you should consider getting out of them. This is former director of CIA, William Casey. He says, "We'll know our disinformation programs are complete when everything the American public believes in is false." Very, very true words. Sometimes the most true words you'll get out of the people that are the most insidious and nefarious. Moody's, by the way, just downgraded the United States credit rating for the first time in history. The reason is unsustainable path to U.S. federal debt and its resulting interest burden. Credit's been downgraded from AAA to AA1. There's a picture I posted up on Facebook. A guy that works there is changing out the price label on a USB cable from $9 to $17.99. So it's going from $9 to $18. Some shoppers are getting surprised with new fees from online purchases. Since these tariffs happen so fast, sometimes days or weeks after ordering and getting the product, the Chinese tariffs on these goods and products are hitting United States consumers. I'm not going to mention his name. A programmer in Austin received an email from UPS on May the 2nd with a bill for $137 for fees and taxes on a purchase he made nearly a week earlier. He would need to pay the full amount in order to receive the $183 cord. See, he ordered a $183 cord organizer from CRD Bag, a Swedish company. But part of the product, even though it's a Swedish company, is made in China. So his tax, due to tariffs, from Cheeto Jesus, by the way, his tax on the $183 product is $137. Oh my God. I don't know. It's not funny, actually. It's kind of funny. Kind of funny in a... Please, you should share that video. You know, it might be really hard for you to watch. It's on the internet as well. Currently, it's on the tube. For how long, I have no idea. But there's the name of the video. I really, really suggest you watch it. It's quite heartbreaking. And I mean that literally. As the old Chinese saying goes, there's only 3 things you could hide for just so long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. I didn't know how many years it would take. I didn't think it would take this long, actually. It's been rolling out for the past several years. But exactly what I predicted would happen is happening now. The truth can only be hidden for so long. Doesn't matter how much power you have, how much might you wield, you cannot block the truth for that long. It's like this superfluid that will always escape any box. You know, it'll slither through the cracks. There's no cracks in there. It'll still get through. The truth is like that. And I knew this would happen, just as I knew from the very get-go, the start of all of this, that this was the definition of, this is a real-life Freddy Krueger, Jason, Chucky kind of movie, except reality. I was right about that, and I was right that the truth would come loose, like fully. I mean, it's been leaking out, but now it's just it's like the door is wide open now. The only good thing that's going to come from this, the only good thing, well, maybe not the only, is that, and I don't know doctors that have quit because of this. My doctor quit herself because she can't stand being around doctors, and the great insidiousness of what's going on is that people will not trust, unless you have less than 3 brain cells, people will not trust these entities anymore. That's one of the only good things I could see coming about from this. One, maybe some more. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I sound kind of hoarse because I have the cold. And check me out in live stream. Been doing a bunch of them lately. Thank you very much.